There's the bell, and that means we're back with SC Charter Chatter. Welcome to episode 15. This is the only podcast dedicated to charter schools in South Carolina. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Kevin. We are presented by the Public Charter School Alliance of South Carolina. I think we have another fantastic episode today as we continue our tribute to Black History Month. Throughout the month of February, we've celebrated, highlighted, and recognized the work, roles, and achievements of African Americans throughout history. And here on SC Charter Chatter, we've been spotlighting some of the work that's being done in South Carolina's charter schools. We're talking to African American school leaders, learning about who they are, and sharing the impactful work they're doing in education and in our public charter schools. Hey, before we get started today, I want to mention our regional roundtables coming up in March of 2022. The Alliance will be hosting 3 of these across the state, one in the upstate, one in Columbia, and one in the Lowcountry. Look for those specific dates coming soon. I hope you'll join us during that time to share ideas, share current events, and share some important things that will be coming up soon for you. Okay, today I'm honored to have Pee Dee Math, Science, and Technology Academy's Executive Director, Mr. Keith Bailey, with us, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that school coming up. But first, Mr. Bailey, thank you for joining SC Charter Chatter.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk about our kids and to just share a little bit about our perspective. So, again, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I want to start with you first, Mr. Bailey, before we get to those kids and about your school. As we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
For sure. Well, this is the wonderful thing about charter schools is it brings together great minds. It's not just educators, it's businessmen and women, it's stakeholders from grandparents to parents to retired educators. It's just a group of people who want to see great things happening for students. And so I don't come from a traditional educational background. I started Kevin with in business. So my background is in business. I was in recruiting. I did recruiting for quite a while in the accounting field, and then I went into biometrics, identity management, recruiting for C-level executives, and then from there I started my own business, and also doing project management, working with nonprofits, et cetera. Mm-hmm. And back in 2002 or 3, when I moved back to South Carolina, a lot of my family members and people from my community that I grew up in wanted to start a charter school. Actually, back up, they didn't want to start a charter school. They wanted to start a private school. Okay. And so being in rural South Carolina, and that's not always an easy task. And so in discussing, I said, well, have you thought about a charter school? And long story short, Kevin, they said, what is that? How do we find out more about that? And I said, well, fine. Why don't I pull some information together for you? Long story short, they said, well, why don't you just make it happen? So I said, okay. So this was during one of the downturns in the economy. So right. I really had a little time that I could focus on it. So I brought together some stakeholders, educators, some legal folks, and we pulled together a planning team that is now turned into Pee Dee Math, Science, and Technology Academy. My original plan was to, get it started and move back into business. Right. But the board at the time, we were so invested. I mean, we pounded the pavement and knocking on doors, mm-hmm. and I was in the whole entire mix, blood, sweat, and tears. Sure. Once we identified the type of charter we wanted to pursue and create, and we opened up in 2013, the board decided, hey, why don't you stay on, because we want you to continue to keep the spirit of what we created. And I decided and agreed to do that. And that was 9 years ago.
It gets in your blood, right?
It does. It really does. I have since gone back and gotten my master's in curriculum and instruction, and will just be finishing my doctorate here in May in the same field, curriculum and instruction. So I also found out, Kevin, which was so interesting, that in the field of education, even though there's quite a few unique things, running a charter school is running a business. It's a lot of components that just having a classroom focus is not going to ensure that you're successful.
And I think that's something that people don't bring up a lot. I don't know why that is, or, people don't want to mix business with education, but the fact is you're exactly right. There is a business component, business side to that must be successful as well. Exactly.
So that became our strength. And coming in rural South Carolina, rural Bishopville, South Carolina, which the community, has come to love us being here, to the point that we moved from a kindergarten through sixth grade school to middle school, and then we went back to the state, and then we were awarded to serve K through 12.
Yes.
And so we'll have our first graduating class this year, and we're really excited about that.
Yes, exciting times. I know we've talked about that in the past, and we're going to get to a little bit more in depth about PD in just a little bit, but exciting times this year for sure down there. So you've kind of answered a couple of my questions leading up, but I do want to go back just a little bit. So why is it, you came into this project, so to speak, of kind of spearheading it and then thinking you would, kind of pass the baton. So what is it, do you think, and you've gone on to get degrees now and you're working on your doctorate, Dr. Bailey soon. What is it about education that grips you and keeps you coming back or staying?
So that's a loaded question, but I can tell you from experience here, being with the students here at PD, I love these kids.
Right.
I love these families, and I take everything I do to heart when I'm advocating for them, either at a local level, state level, even federal level, in talking about why students who are underserved, why they deserve to have access to all resources that any other student have access to. And so I've quickly learned in education that not all educators educate the same.
Sure.
And not all of them believe the same. And what I mean by that, Kevin, is I've interviewed teachers when we've asked something as fundamental as, do you believe all students can learn? I was amazed. This is our fundamental belief here at PD,
right,
that we believe all students can learn. But I've had educators who would tell me that they don't believe all students can learn. And even literally stating that, I know that sounds hard to believe,
right?
But I have had that shared with me, and which baffled me, because despite any disability, despite any social barrier, despite any trauma, despite any social economic barrier or obstacle, those things should not be a deterrent why students should have or should not have access to the best education, not a marginalized education. And I know people can even say that, but fundamentally believing that is a different thing. And so I found myself somewhat being more of an advocate in this role to say, hey, don't forget about my students over here at PD. They too deserve access to resources and different components that other students may have. And don't count them out because they may not have the achievement level to date. But let's look at how we can grow those students by empowering those students.
Well, those are powerful words right there, and I can tell, I can almost see your passion coming through. I hear your passion coming through for sure, and I can't agree with you more on those statements. And it kind of leads me right into my next question, kind of 1A here. So why charter? Like what was it about a charter school that you feel could best serve your community there?
I love charter because charter schools have been afforded by law the autonomy to create what is needed for the population they serve.
Yes.
And I've not found any other entity outside of private schools being able to do that. But we're able to, under the auspices of this charter school district and the state law, we're able to serve our students, but then customize a curriculum that best meets the needs of our students. So, for example, we have social emotional learning every day that is mandated 20 minutes. And we have a STEAM focus, which means not just having things, STEAM, not just things, but it's a mindset, it's an approach. So we look at a lot of inquiry-based type frameworks to be able to challenge students to think outside of the box. And then we're also able to bring in individuals that can speak the language, if you will, of our students,
right,
that they look like our students, and they may have even come from some of the same obstacles that our students are facing. And that correlation and relationship inspires in a way that maybe just a purchased curriculum without those extra add-ons cannot do, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. That connection, making those connections, creating those relationships will go so much further than possibly a textbook ever could. Right. So
Absolutely.
Yes. So I'm going to pivot just a little bit. We're going to come back to PD in just a few minutes, but I want to pivot just a second. So, of course, this month we're celebrating Black History Month and recognizing some of our African American school leaders across South Carolina in our charter schools. And as we recognize that those works and achievements of African Americans throughout history, we want to celebrate the school leaders that are doing it every single day, like yourself, Mr. Bailey. So I want you to share your perspective on this time and why it's important that we recognize these achievements around Black History Month.
That's an important perspective, Kevin, and I want to applaud you for even bringing this conversation up and raising this conversation. It's never a topic that can get old or dull because there's the rich heritage of our African American history here in America. If we just want to look there. But it's important because statistics will tell you that our students, the majority of the students that we serve, minority students, they learn from individuals who look like them. I mean, the stats are there.
Sure.
And so bringing up history that is not just always negative history or the history that is quite daunting sometimes when you think about the struggles that, my parents, I come from parents who were sharecroppers. I come from, my parents were sharecroppers. They have told me stories of having to go to the back of a store and they could not drink from specific fountains. They had to drink from the colored fountain, and they told me stories of discrimination, and they told me things that they've experienced.
Wow. And
some of the students that we serve, even though they are a product of the mishaps, if you will, of our country, a product of the things that have occurred in our country, they don't always know why.
Right.
They don't always know, why did I land here? Why am I here? Why am I facing certain obstacles? They don't always know why. So Black history is important because it tells a story. It tells a story of a journey. It tells a story of a people. It tells a story of experiences that can give us a clue as to why youth, children, students do what they do now.
Mm-hmm.
You can peel back the pages of history and begin to peek into the eyes and the stories of people of past times and understand perhaps why students are dealing with certain things now. And that's an important thing. I did a topic one time, a conference, and I talked about trauma, and we talked about students of color and how sometimes we tend to judge or prejudge students based on their behavior without looking past the layers and looking at root causes of why students may be dealing with certain things. So, for example, you may see a student, they may have poor posture, or they may have their pants sagging, or they may be a student that's hanging out, if you will. But when you go back to the statistics and you look at the research, many of these students are depressed. There's a statistic now that you can Google. You know, we have fact checkers now, so you can fact check me.
That's right.
And Google. But there is a rise in mental illness, particularly in African American boys. That the suicide rate is increasing. Why is that? What is society? What is happening in society that will make African American males fall in that category and that statistic? So when we talk about Black history, we're looking at the pages of old to see how that has influenced decisions of right now. And I'll pause there for a minute because I can keep going.
I was just about to say, I feel like this is a conversation that we could have for quite some time, an all-day thing, not just a quick podcast conversation. So I can hear and feel that passion that you have coming out of your voice there. You touched on it just a second, but I want to get your thoughts more around this. To know that you have young students and serve those populations that you do in that rural community of yours that can look up to you in a leadership role, who look like them. What does that mean for you?
That means quite a few things. I'm happy to represent, and I know we're talking about Black history, but all of my students, they know, or at least I hope they do, that I love them. And we have one of the most diverse schools in the county. So our local school district is predominantly minority at the local school district. And there's a private school here in our area that is predominantly white students. But we actually mirror the demographics of our area, which is about 68, 69% African American, 20 some odd percent white, and then the rest other. And we all get along, and we all are family, and we all know that, and this is our motto: together we make our world better, one vision, one voice. We say that every day. And what that means is that diversity, it doesn't have to be just a complexity where it creates a distraction or a division, but it is a sign of how creative we can become by listening to the stories of each other. So it's a thing that can bring us together. But to answer your question, it's important to me to represent and model a possibility. and I share with students all the time, I expect you to go far beyond anything you think I've ever done, which means don't use me as the goal. Use me as the baseline. And you can do all things that you put your mind to. If you believe it, you can achieve it. And I know that sounds a little cliche-ish if you want to say that, but it is a fundamental belief of mine that you can do all things. If you have the right circle, the right love, the right empowerment, the education is the 21st century civil rights issue. We got to have education. How can you allow me through relationships? If you allow me to give you a key, let's unlock your mind. Let's unlock the world of education and ideas and knowledge, and the world is open up to you. And so what it means to me is to be that model and to strive for the best every day, that when students see me, I wear my tie, my suit, and I'm dressed for success. To me, I know that's not, contemporary dress now, it's, sneakers and hoodies and that sort of thing. But I represent a generation that says, hey, if you dress for success, if you strive for the best, how you dress, that my parents instilled that in me. How you look is what represents you. So even if students don't take that and they display it in their own dress, but hopefully they hear the message behind what they see. And then I also hope that they see my dedication. I'm usually the first here to get here, and not typically the last ones to leave now that we have after school. But on many days, I'm one of the last ones to leave as well, because I want to make sure and I hate to say anxiety, my spider senses don't really calm down until I see that last child get in the car. I'm like, okay, good. Yeah. Everybody is safely on campus now.
There you go.
But
well, I know this is a topic you won't have any trouble talking to us about. Share with us a little bit about PD Math, Science, and Technology, and the students you're serving there. I know you've shared a lot so far, but just tell us some more about what you guys are doing there, the students you're serving there, and what you have going on.
Sure. We started in 2013 with 50 students, and we didn't know if we were going to make it. Our original plan was to have at least 120 students the first year, but that didn't work out. Yeah. So our original plan was K through 6, and we were going to partner with the local school district and send on our wonderful students on back to the local school district. Long story short, our parents really rallied around what we were building here, what we're doing here. And they said, Mr. Bailey, we don't want our students to leave, our children to leave. You have to go back and go K through 12. And I'm like, well, let's just do middle school. So we went back up to the state and said, hey, can we also serve middle school? The state said yes, and so we did that. And there's other components. I'm oversimplifying it.
Sure, right.
But after middle school, the parents came back again and said, I know we did 8th grade, but we want our students to graduate from this school. I'm like, high school? Oh, my. So we pulled a planning team together, and we were awarded high school. So we're K through 12. Our first graduating class, as I said earlier, this year of a wonderful 15 graduates. We have a unique campus, Kevin, of one class of each grade. So even though we're a small campus, we're a very diverse campus. And so we're actually, if you were to come to campus, we're in modular or portables, but we will hopefully in about a couple of months start moving some dirt and building our facility that we've been working on since 2019. We finally got some approvals there. Actually heard from OSF a couple of days ago that we're able to start pulling permits. So we're just really excited about a really state-of-the-art facility. So you're going to have to come back and take a tour of that.
I absolutely would love that. Absolutely. What a testament, though, to you and to school, and I know not just you, and you would say that, but to just a testament to the people that have put this school together and to PD, that they said, hey, listen, we don't want to stop at 6. Hey, we don't want to stop at 8. We want to be here K through 12. What a testament to that school, that community came back and said, man, we just demand more. And then you were able to answer them.
Yeah, that's a good feeling when I see parents and they pull me in the car line and they tell me those little testimonials, and some of them, you know, and I promise you I don't pay any of them to say these things, but they will grab me and say, Mr. Bailey, thank you. And it's really, Kevin, the grandparents are the best. Like they really share some great things about what they feel about what we're doing here at PD. And that just is rewarding enough to hear that they feel safe, they feel comfortable, they feel hopeful, they feel empowered, they feel inspired by what they see that we have built and what we are building here.
Yeah, I would imagine that feeling is not duplicated very often with many things. The feeling that you get from hearing those words and hearing that gratitude of families, for sure. So a lot of exciting things this year. You know, it's a victory in itself to get OSF approval to start doing things, but to get that, to start moving forward in a new building, first graduating class. And is your son in the first graduating class, or he's in high school? I can't remember.
My son's with an S. I have
sons.
Twins.
Okay.
I have three boys. My twins are graduating this year, and
that's special in itself, right there.
One of them got accepted to Clemson, which is
nice.
I was hoping and still hoping he may accept, but they also got accepted to USC and several other colleges. So we're just going to see what happens. So my wife and I are both Clemson. You know, that's where I met her when I went to Clemson. Mm-hmm. And but my sister and her side of the family are USC Gamecock fans. And so I don't know. I think we've been bad parents because all of my boys may be leaning towards Garnett. So we don't know what will happen there. But yes, they're graduating this year. We're really proud of them and all of the students that have made some awesome accomplishments. Many of them have already received college acceptances, and I think we have about, just out of our 15, I'm proud to say, over $500,000 in scholarships. Wow! Yes, so and this is just of what we know now, and we see more coming in, and so yes, so we do have my two sons graduating in that class of 15.
A special time, no doubt. I'm sure. Well, Mr. Bailey, thank you for taking the time to talk to SC Charter Chatter. We know your days are busy and time is valuable, and we appreciate you sharing a little bit about yourself, your school, and providing your perspective on Black History Month.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for having me, and just know you have an open invitation to come to PD.
Well, I will certainly return, that is for sure. That wraps up episode 15 of SC Charter Chatter. My thanks again to Mr. Bailey at Pee Dee Math, Science and Technology Academy. Make sure you subscribe to SC Charter Chatter so you don't miss our next episode when we share the important things happening in the SC Charter landscape. As always, thanks for listening and the all-around support. Be sure to follow us and don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. Let us know what you think of the show. Our email is podcast@scharterschools.org. You can also share topics or ideas for the show. Again, podcast@scharterschools.org. Like us on Facebook and Instagram at SC Charter Schools, on Twitter, SC Charter School, and remember to use the hashtag MyCharterSC. Until next time, I'm Kevin. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented on this podcast are for general information only, and no person should act or refrain from acting on the basis of the content of this podcast without first seeking appropriate professional advice. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the individuals and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Public Charter Schools Alliance, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any other entity they represent. Information and material in this episode will not be updated and may not be current. Please consult your own professional for any advice for your specific situation. To read the full disclaimer, go to scharterschools.org.